video, we looked at a few of the many ways to describe a line. One of them is by using a certain formula. So today, let's build on this a little further by looking at a few examples. This formula is one of the many ways to describe a line. But what do all these letters mean? Well, let's start with X and Y. X simply refers to how far we travel in the horizontal direction, and Y refers to how far we travel in the vertical direction. But what about M and B? Well, as we looked in the last video, M refers to the slope, and B refers to the y-intercept, or where the line intersects the y-axis. Now, let's look at an example. Here is a line. Well, how can we describe this line using this formula? Let's start by finding the values of M and B. So let's start by finding the slope of this line. We can start by finding the slope by picking 2 points on this line. Let's pick 1 point here and 1 point here. Now, how far do we travel horizontally and vertically? Or how far do we run and rise to get from this point to this point? Well, we run 1 unit. So how far do we rise? Well, we rise 2 units. This gives us a slope of 2 over 1, since we can calculate slope by the rise divided by the run. So the slope, or the value of M, is 2 over 1, or 2. But what about the y-intercept? Well, where does the line intersect the y-axis? As you can see, it intersects at 2 on the y-axis. So the value of V is 2. Now, let's put this all together. One way we can describe this line is by this equation. Y is equal to 2 times X plus 2. Now, before, I talked about X and Y. But how do they describe the line? Well, X and Y give us an ordered pair, which is on the line. If I put in a value for X, it gives me a value for Y. And this ordered pair will be on the line. For example, if I put 1 for X, I get the Y value of 4, or an ordered pair of 1, 4, which, as you can see, is on the line. Now, let's look at another example. Let's start by finding the slope of this line. To do that, we can pick 2 points. Let's pick 1 point here and 1 point here. Well, how far do we have to travel horizontally and vertically to get from this point to this point? We would have to run 1 unit, and we would have to rise 1 unit. This gives us a slope of 1 divided by 1. So the value of m is 1, which means that the slope of this line is 1. But what's the value of the y-intercept? As you can see, the line intersects the y-axis at -1. So the value of b is -1. Now, let's put it all together. This gives us an equation of y is equal to 1x minus 1, which is one out of many ways to describe this line.